and the incident was all captured by a police helicopter.
They are locked up, boys. They are ready to do something. They're looking around. They're looking at the window.
The suspects tried but failed to break into the store, and that is when police moved in. We get more from Global's Karen Lieberman.
The video is remarkable. It shows the moment police managed to take down a group of suspects. They say were trying to break into this jewelry store here in North York. They were armed with sledgehammers, and we've learned it's not the first time this has happened.
They are locked up, boys. They are ready to do something. They're looking around. They're looking at the window.
Police are in the air and on the ground. They've been watching these suspects as part of a stolen vehicle investigation. Followed them here from Vaughan.
Knocking on the window with a hammer. Stand by. Stand by.
So we find people that are loading up into a stolen vehicle, if they have masks and gloves, very often we know that they're going to go and commit other offenses.
And there were 5 kids here, and they smashed through the door.
But the store's owner had already taken precautions. He says this wasn't the first time they've been targeted.
So the very first time they came in, sliding doors at that time did open, and they came with sledgehammers. They spread out, the 5 of them. They started smashing in cases, sweeping up what they could, as quickly as they could, and within really under 1 minute, they were in and out.
Last Friday, the doors were secured and the would-be thieves couldn't get in. Video from York Regional Police shows the group return to the vehicle.
And that's when you can see that our hold-up unit is moving in. We always take that car out of play as quickly as possible because that's the most dangerous thing for both our investigators as well as for the general public. And once that's taken care of, we're able to effect those arrests.
6 teenagers from Toronto, Brampton, and Vaughan have all been charged.
All are in custody. That's probably big time. We got here. Good work.
If you're committing crimes in York, if you're crossing the neutral line, if you're coming from here, we are going to be following you and we are going to be arresting you.
Temporary relief for Ami Freiberg.
Our stores are being targeted by underage kids because they basically know there's nothing that's going to happen to them. The records are going to be expunged. They're out that same day. They're out the next day. We've had this conversation with police multiple times, and their hands are tied.
The store's owner says he's taken a number of steps to ensure the safety of clients and staff. And by the way, police are still looking for information and video. If you could help, contact police or Crime Stoppers anonymously. Karen Lieberman, Global News.
All right, stay with us. We have lots more news coming up after this short break.
You're watching Global News. For the most important stories from around the world.
We are here in Jerusalem. We just heard the siren.
For many people, the worst days of this disaster are still to come.
Told by the best journalists in the country.
I'm Donna Friesen in Berlin.
Just keep your head down.
He's away, go, go, go.
Watch Canada's #1 national newscast.
A rail strike could cost this one southern Alberta farm as much as $1 million.
The award-winning Global National with Donna Friesen.
This is severe weather. It's getting worse in Canada, and we are all paying the price. But this is what protecting Canadians from the impact of severe weather looks like. The 140,000 people in our home, auto, and business insurance industry working in your community, advocating for solutions that protect all Canadians. It's all part of our plan to protect the things we love.
The Dog the Bounty Hunter channel is your home for all things dog.
He's all done right.
All the wildest dog moments.
This is exciting, ain't it?
All the boss best moments.
You can run, can't hide. Right now.
And all the biggest bounties that help turn dog into a legend.
We're gonna hunt him down.
Legends.
Oh, yeah.
Get ready for Dog the Bounty Hunter 24/7. All dog.
You going back to jail, you lying pop?
All day long.
I love those words.
The Dog the Bounty Hunter channel.
Get down with CSI Miami. Stream CSI Miami channel. Only on Pluto TV.
I'm Catherine Ward with your top health headlines right now. A large measles outbreak in Texas and New Mexico continues to grow. Cases in the neighboring states rose to 317 on Tuesday from 294 4 days ago. It's one of the largest measles outbreaks in the U.S. in the past decade. The country has already surpassed last year's count of 285 infections, according to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Cases of measles continue to climb in Canada, and health officials say vaccines are key to preventing spread. Public health units say they are doing everything they can to reach out to those who may need a shot. Southwestern Public Health, about 2 hours from Toronto, is facing one of the largest measles outbreaks, more than 220 cases since October. The team responding to the outbreak says most of the cases are in children who haven't received their vaccines.
We're finding that these cases are quite significantly ill. And while measles is normally quite mild, we do see children reporting to local emergency departments or their primary care providers because their families are concerned about the symptoms that they're experiencing.
An experimental treatment appears to delay Alzheimer's symptoms in some people genetically destined to get the disease in their 40s or 50s. That's according to new findings from ongoing U.S. research, which is now caught up in the Trump administration funding delays. The early results are a scientific first. They were published Wednesday, even as study participants worry that politics could cut their access to a possible lifeline. The treatment works by clearing the brain of one of its hallmarks, a sticky gunk called amyloid, before Alzheimer's symptoms appear. A UBC study has found TikTok creators are spreading misinformation about ADHD. The researchers found the most viewed ADHD videos lacked context, which could lead to symptoms being misinterpreted or even for people to misdiagnose themselves. ADHD is estimated to affect 3 to 7% of adults, and people are urged to cross-check TikTok information with reputable sources and to see a healthcare provider for proper diagnosis. Those are the top health stories right now. For more, you can head to globalnews.ca. I'm Catherine Ward.
People are flocking to Stonehenge in the UK to mark the spring equinox and see the sunrise above the stones. A couple hundred pagans, Druids, and Wiccans turned up to celebrate the start of spring. Many revelers danced, chanted, played drums, and lit incense to ring in the changing of the seasons. The prehistoric stones hold a supernatural mystique for many, with their construction dating back thousands of years. Scientists say we still don't know for sure how it was built. Beatlemania has returned in an unexpected way. A Vancouver record shop owner is still trying to process an astonishing accidental discovery he made right under his nose. A rare authentic recording by the Beatles before they made it big. Jason Pierce reports.
It's not on Penny Lane or Abbey Road.
It's been sitting here for years.
It is on Main Street, where this priceless artifact has been gathering dust on a shelf inside the small record shop.
The thing I saw was up here. It says Beatles 1960s with a question mark demo tape.
It must blow your mind.
It does blow my mind because I'm a huge Beatles fan.
Neptune owner Rock Frith doesn't recall when exactly he purchased it. He assumes it was a Beatles bootleg, part of a record collection from an engineer.
This is the news from the state.
Just last week, Rob went to a friend Larry's to get some of his tapes transferred. And then, a spontaneous, once-in-a-lifetime connection to music history.
You take it out, and oh my God, jaws dropped.
And I almost didn't play the tape. I was like, oh, let's just listen to it. So we stuck it on, and we couldn't believe it. It was like the room filled up with this sound. Never really played heard before the Beatles. So exciting. And we're just sort of laughing. We can't believe what we're listening to. I thought it was going to be off a record. It's obviously off a tape.
Can you play us the reel?
I would love to.
This is Pretty Ringo.
Yes.
It was a copy of the original master, the demo tape of the Beatles in January 1962 at Decca Records in London.
Famously, Decca is the label that turned down the Beatles. What I believe is that this tape is the one-to-one copy from Decca from the vault.
There's 15 tracks on it.
You start going to hit the tracks?
All of them. All of them. Money, Sheep of Araby.
The Beatles' most famous connection to Vancouver was their concert at Empire Stadium just 2 years after that demo recording.
My dad drove me by the outside of the place down on Houston Street the night of it, and we could hear the boys.
That soundtrack from his childhood has now formed into a much richer sound more than 6 decades later.
And you felt like they were there playing live. That's how good it sounded. It's pretty exciting. I have absolutely no idea what it's worth. I don't even know if I want to sell it. You know, no, knowing what it is. You know, if Paul McCartney comes to my store and wants it, I'll give it to him for free.
Jason Ferris, Global News.
Well, it was once named the world's ugliest animal. The people in New Zealand are proving beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The blobfish, known for its floppy, lumpy appearance, has now been named Fish of the Year in the Mountain to Sea Conservation Trust competition. Affectionately known as Mr. Blobby, the New Zealand Environmental Group says the fish received nearly a quarter of all votes in the contest. The gelatinous fish is found up to 1.2 kilometers deep off the coast of Australia and Tasmania. Well, they're not ready to help save the galaxy just yet, but real-life Star Wars droids developed by Disney are getting plenty of attention at an ongoing tech conference. The droids stole the show at NVIDIA's annual software developer conference in San Jose. They can walk, dance, and talk through beeping sounds. The robots are controlled by a puppeteer with a controller, so they're not autonomous just yet, but they do control their own balance and gait. Finland has once again been ranked the happiest country in the world. The World Happiness Report, which was released today, measures social support, income, health, freedom, generosity, and the absence of corruption to determine a country's national happiness. People in 143 countries and territories are asked to evaluate their life on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 representing their best possible life. Results from the past 3 years are averaged to create a ranking. Finland remains in the top spot for an 8th year, with an average score of 7.75, followed by Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden. Canada ranked 18th. Afghanistan held the bottom spot with a score of 1.36. You are watching Global News. Coming up next, we have your top stories of the day. Stay with us.
This is Global News. Hello, and thank you for watching Global News on this Thursday, March 20th. I'm Anthony Wilkins.
And I'm Miranda Amsel. Here are the top stories we're tracking today.
Canadians heading to the polls. Prime Minister Mark Carney planning to call a federal election by this Sunday. The new Liberal leader is making the move now.
Investigators releasing a preliminary report on last month's Delta plane crash in Toronto. The investigation being led by the Transportation Safety Board of Canada and assisted by U.S. aviation officials.
Measles cases climbing in Canada as health officials push for vaccination. More on the numbers and steps being taken by public health units. Prime Minister Mark Carney is planning to call a federal election by Sunday. This supports multiple sources within the Liberal Party. The Global News has been told by a senior Liberal campaign official that Carney has not yet settled on the actual election date yet, and that both April 28th and May 5th are being considered. According to sources, Prime Minister Carney is calling it before Monday to avoid facing the required return of the equivalent parliament.
New Chinese tariffs come into effect today and has Canadian canola farmers bracing for the impact, leaving many deeply worried about their future.
It's absolutely terrible. It's hard to deal with one set of tariffs, let alone two. We've got two different markets that are basically our two biggest customers that now have tariffs against us. And that's basically what I don't think we can handle it.
China is enacting a 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil and canola meal, plus a 25% duty on seafood and pork exports. The move is in retaliation for Canada's tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum products. The 10th town halls have shown many Americans are still willing to voice their concerns for their northern neighbors. Some U.S. lawmakers have also joined the chorus of support. Sharia Isri traveled to Vermont, just across the Quebec border, to hear from politicians and business owners who are calling for the White House to back off.
It's not only Canadians getting their elbows up, but these Americans as well.
There's no justification for these tariffs. None.
Democratic Senator Peter Welch warns the Trump administration's tariff war will only backfire.
I'm really appalled at the U.S. policy right now. I think Trump is making a huge mistake for what history.
And in many cases, one economy. This off-road utility vehicle company is quite literally stuck in the middle.
I don't think it's good for anybody.
The business is cross-border, and so are the products.
So I'm Mike Daenerys in Vermont and Michel Denaret in Quebec. I'm a dual citizen.
Employees and parts go back and forth between Vermont and Quebec.
Our products, if they cost us more than 5 or 6 times, will have multiple tariffs on tariffs. And it just doesn't make sense.
As much as Vermont relies on Canada for business, many people here say they understand and empathize with the decision of many Canadians to boycott American travel and U.S. products.
Canadians don't want to visit, and I frankly can't blame them. They got help.
Steve Wright is the president of Jay Peak Ski Resort, one of the largest employers in the area.
The tariffs are an ignorant approach for our administration to take, and worse than that for me is the challenge to the Canadian sovereignty, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Liberal MP Marie-Claude Bibeau traveled stateside for the meeting.
Prime Minister Carney is still on this page as well. We can't be bullied.
But she's preaching to the choir. While Vermont has a Republican governor, it's widely viewed as one of the most progressive states.
The senators who are supporting Trump are going to have to make a decision. Do they want to stick with Trump when it's hurting the people they represent?
These Americans realize that. The question is, how much hurt will it take for Trump's allies to admit it publicly? Sharia Isri, Global News, Newport, Vermont.
Navigating economic uncertainty and concerns about a rise in prices amid a trade war with the U.S. has many Canadians worried about making big financial decisions right now. To break down where things stand and the impact it's having within our borders, we're joined now by personal finance expert Rubina Ahmed-Haq. Rubina, welcome back to the show. All right, so this week, the inflation numbers for February were released, and we saw it rise to 2.6%, up from 1.9%. So what factors were at play here?
February was a bit of a strange month because it was the end of the GST-HST holiday on February 15th. So more Canadians were dining in restaurants because it was a little bit cheaper to do so. But at the same time, those prices rose at the end of February. So Stats Canada is saying that restaurant prices in general were up. We were spending more at the beginning because it was a little bit cheaper, and then we were spending more because that tax was added on. So that it's going to take March to really get a good gauge of what we're doing when it comes to restaurant and food spending. But it is concerning that now we're seeing inflation at that 2.6 level, higher than economists were predicting. Still in that range of 2 to 3%, but definitely much higher than what was forecasted, and that really does put pressure on the Bank of Canada's interest rate announcements going forward.
All right, so speaking of inflation, we know the inflation rate is a key factor the Bank of Canada considers when making interest rate decisions. So what kind of impact is this expected to have on the next one?
So economists are now predicting at about a 59% rate that there will be another rate cut at the next announcement. But that is not as rosy as we have seen in the past, where economists have predicted 90% that there's going to be a rate cut. Definitely, there is a lot of pressure coming from the United States with all the news of tariffs and economic uncertainty in 2025, and that's going to put pressure on the Bank of Canada. And that's not good news for everyday Canadians who have been looking forward to these rate cuts to give them some continued help when it comes to making their mortgage payments, being able to borrow more a home that they want to buy. But there has been a sequence of rate cuts in the last 7 months, and so a lot of people are feeling a lot more comfortable with their mortgage payments right now than they were even just 6-7 months ago. So another rate cut would be applauded, but at the same time, it's not something that is as necessary as we needed a year ago.
Right, and Rubina, on Wednesday, the U.S. made its latest interest rate decision, deciding to hold steady. So, is the trade war causing economic concerns south of the border as well?
So this is a really big concern because the Federal Reserve has held rates. Their rates are at 4.3% and ours are lower than 3%. So this is a big gap between how much we are charging for Canadians and Canadian businesses to borrow money compared to the United States. And the reason that they are giving, the U.S. Federal Reserve, is that they are saying that the economy in the U.S. is going to slow down more than they expected in 2025, and that's why they want to leave rates where they are so that they have that tool when the economy slows down to cut rates to stimulate the economy going forward. This definitely puts a lot of pressure on Canada because when you cut interest rates, you actually cut the currency, the value of the currency as well. And so we've been suffering through that as well with on top of tariffs and everything else that's going on with the U.S. We also have a weaker Canadian dollar, making it more difficult to do business in the U.S. And so this doesn't help with that situation because they have kept their interest rates higher, meaning they cut their currency value at that stronger rate as well.
And beyond the U.S., Rubina, Canada is also dealing with China leveling 100% tariffs against Canadian canola exports. And that's in response to our tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and aluminum and steel products there. What does this mean for farmers and consumers?
The expectation is that it's not going to raise prices for canola oil for Canadians, for Canadian consumers. But it is a huge concern for farmers who are just starting to plant those seeds because we are just getting into spring. It gives them a very uncertain future. 100% tariffs on canola oil, 25% tariffs on pork and other products. And this is in response to Canada putting 100% tariffs on electric vehicles coming into the country, like you mentioned. And so that really gives farmers who have already been beaten down by pandemic, higher inflation, higher rate of borrowing, another reason to be concerned about their 2025 crops. Because if they grow them and they can't sell them to one of their biggest buyers, which is China, where is that canola oil going to go? And that may flood the market with too much oil, and they need to be able to sell it. And that may not be the case if there's this tariff on it.
All right, that is personal finance expert Rubina Amenha. Thanks, Rubina.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it may be a couple of days before an Ontario Superior Court judge decides whether to grant approval to the Hudson's Bay Company to liquidate its stores. The department store giant was in court Wednesday, where its lawyers asked for up to 2 more days to resolve contested issues. The judge in the case says that the company and its lenders, landlords, and other partners are in constructive conversations. Hudson's Bay had hoped to start liquidating all 80 of its stores this week, as well as 3 Saks Fifth Avenue stores and 13 Saks On Fifth locations here in Canada. Cases of measles continue to climb in Canada, and health officials say the key to preventing spread lies in vaccination. Public health units say they're doing everything they can to reach out to those who may need a shot. Health reporter Catherine Ward has more.
Southwestern Public Health is about 2 hours from Toronto, and this is where one of the largest measles outbreaks is happening in Ontario. As of Thursday, there were more than 220 cases, with about 170 of those being confirmed and 50 being considered probable. Public health officials here have been on high alert since October, when the first case was reported.
Chief Nursing Officer at Southwestern Public Health, Julie Fletcher, has been part of the team working to manage the outbreak. She says most of the cases are in unvaccinated children.
If I were to capture how serious this outbreak would be, I would say it's significant. We're seeing numbers that we did not anticipate seeing of an infectious disease that was eradicated in 1998 in Canada. And so every new case we have is concerning because we know it's highly contagious and it means others may get infected as a result.
The big takeaway doctors and nurses want people to hear, no matter where they live in Canada, is to know your measles vaccination status. If there are questions or concerns, people are urged to speak to their doctor or call their local public health unit. Kathleen Ward, Global News, St. Thomas, Ontario.
Meanwhile, a large measles outbreak in Texas and New Mexico continues to grow. Cases in the neighboring states rose to 317 on Tuesday from 294 4 days ago. It was one of the largest measles outbreaks in the United States in the past decade. According to data from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the country has already surpassed last year's count. We're learning more about the circumstances surrounding the Delta air crash landing at Toronto's Pearson Airport last month. The Transportation Safety Board of Canada released its preliminary findings of the incident. Jamie Lincoln brings us those details.
Well, a lot of details in this preliminary report from the Transportation Safety Board of Canada, including how the plane landed, the pilots involved, and the mechanics of it all. And one big takeaway from this report was what a lot of aviation experts have already been saying, which is that this plane took a hard landing.
What happened? The airplane came down too fast. The nose wasn't pitched up enough. And it landed hard on the runway, and the main right landing gear struts, which are those pieces of equipment that basically hold the landing gear straight in moments of impact. That strut on the right-hand side cracked.
As for the pilots, the report shares the captain has worked for the airline for nearly 18 years and is also a flight instructor. He has over 3,500 hours of flight time under his belt. This trip from Minneapolis to Toronto was his first flight in 7 days. The first officer who landed the plane, she's worked for the airline since January 2024 and held over 1,400 hours of flight under her belt. She was on day 5 of a 5-day work cycle and completed one other flight earlier in the day, which aviation expert John Granick says is well within industry standard. She had flown to Toronto Airport 3 times earlier that week, so she knew Toronto Airport well at this point. Granick flagging the only outlying factor was the heavy crosswinds in this trip. For this investigation, the TSB also checked for pre-existing flight control malfunctions. They found none. Moving forward, TSB says they'll be focusing on key areas of this investigation, including the wing structure of the plane, landing techniques, if there are any cabin obstructions at the time of the landing, and emergency coordination. Those findings will go in the final report, and Granick says that's likely also when that they'll make recommendations. And it'll be up to Delta Airlines and Toronto Pearson and whoever else to implement those recommendations from the Transportation Safety Board. Meantime, a number of survivors on that flight has come forward with a lawsuit against Delta Airlines. We did speak with one lawyer of one of the survivors who says that this new finding, this new report essentially corroborates with his client's lawsuit that Delta was negligent and the pilot landing this plane didn't have an experience.
We feel that this directly implicates Delta and Endeavor as being negligent in conducting this flight.
Meantime, Delta Airlines has released a statement saying that it continues to engage with the Transportation Safety Board's investigation. At this time, though, it is refraining from any further comments. Jamie Lincoln, Global News.
All right, after this next break, we take a look at your Cross Canada forecast. That and more coming up.
You're watching Global News.
Breaking news, a brand new game is now live at Bet365. More from Alex. That's right, David. Introducing our exclusive game, Prize Matcher, a daily game that's never ordinary. All you have to do is match as many tiles as you can. The more you match, the better. We also have top table games like our incredible Super Spin Roulette, as well as a huge selection of slots.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Check out our amazing games and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365.
After an extra week, it wasn't hard for Cora to convince Gemma her favorite food wasn't pasta. You were made to eat outside the box. You were made to help our members save.
Here we go. Inspiration.
I can't believe it's in that house.
Is always on. Tiny House Nation. Ambition
This is no joke to our children.
is always on. Dance Moms.
I'm Global News meteorologist Ross Hall with a look at your national forecast. We are looking at some snow across portions of the BC interior. If you're traveling some of those higher elevation highways, the Coquihalla, Highway 3, be prepared for some snow as we move into Friday. Trough in the jet stream representing some cooler conditions across eastern sections of the country after a taste of spring weather, many areas being 20 degrees, at least around southern Ontario, mild conditions in Montreal as well. We're going to start to see a cool down as we move into Friday and the weekend. It's all due to this low pressure system. So we had a warm flow of air ahead of it, and then cooler air is wrapping in behind it. Still some showers across southern Ontario. Dry in Montreal and mild as well, and relatively dry through the Maritimes. The shower activity will move through on Friday. Okay, in terms of any weather alerts right now, we were dealing with some snow across northern Ontario, but that is starting to ease, thankfully. Still some gusty conditions, southerly winds as the system and the cold front pushes from west to east. Showers this evening around Montreal. You'll get into some showers across the Maritimes on Friday. That could turn to some wet snow across portions of New Brunswick by Saturday morning. And a weak system will move across this area on Saturday as well, bringing some showers and flurries. Will be dry on Sunday, but cooler, and we're tracking another system that will move in Sunday evening into Monday that could bring more wet snow. In the west, we talked about the heavier snow through the BC interior, those mountain passes where there's these special weather statements in place. Also, dusty concern affecting air quality across portions of the BC interior. Let's take a look at the futurecast. Still some showers and some wet weather at times around Vancouver and the coast, the south coast, but we're looking at that still continuing into Friday morning through those mountain passes. And then as we head farther east, relatively quiet across the prairies. Could be a few flurries, but shower activity at times, parts of Alberta into Saskatchewan. We'll have to watch out for this system, though, on Saturday morning, bringing some bands of snow stretching into Manitoba. Forecast conditions for today, 8 degrees in Vancouver, 9 in Calgary, 2 in Regina, 7 in Winnipeg. We're looking at temperatures, early in the day reaching the double digits around Toronto, 16 in Montreal, back to the single digits tomorrow. So be prepared for that. And as we look at the forecast conditions around the Maritimes today, some double digits with some sunshine. Showers will move in by later this week. And that's a look at your national forecast.
Ukraine and Russia agreed in principle to a limited ceasefire after U.S. President Donald Trump spoke with the country's leaders this week, though it remains to be seen when it might take effect and what possible targets would be off limits to attack. Richard Engel reports from eastern Ukraine.
I'm now at a coal mine in eastern Ukraine, and infrastructure has become the main focus of attention after conversations between Vladimir Putin and President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky. And all sides appear to be getting closer to a deal, a partial ceasefire that could see attacks stopped against coal mines like this one, all aspects of critical infrastructure here in Ukraine and in Russia as well. First, Vladimir Putin said that he would accept a ceasefire specifically on the energy sector after speaking with President Trump. Ukraine's President Zelensky said he would accept that limited ceasefire as well. Zelensky had already accepted a much broader ceasefire, a total ceasefire. That was not acceptable to Vladimir Putin. But this could be a trust-building exercise. The two sides have also exchanged some prisoners of war, and they are expected to hold a next round of negotiations in Saudi Arabia this weekend. Richard Engel, NBC News, Pavlograd, Ukraine.
The Israeli military restored a blockade on northern Gaza that it had maintained for most of the war. It also announced an additional ground operation in the north of the besieged enclave, where strikes have killed dozens over the past 24 hours. Matt Bradley reports from Tel Aviv.
Well, the day began very early here in Israel with an air raid siren that sounded here in Tel Aviv and throughout a lot of central Israel. This was because the Houthis in Yemen, that rebel group that has renewed its firing at shipping in the Red Sea and in Israel itself, fired a missile that the Israelis said they intercepted outside of Israeli airspace. But this is now well into a ground invasion that started last night into the Gaza Strip. The Israelis are sending troops, tanks, infantry into key positions throughout the Gaza Strip, mainly into that Natsalian corridor which bisects Gaza and has been used in the past by the Israelis to prevent Gazans from moving south to north, or north to south. So we're starting to see an expanding footprint of Israeli soldiers in the Gaza Strip 2 months after they started gradually withdrawing to the periphery of the Gaza Strip as part of that truce that had been inked by the United States as an intermediary. So now we're starting to see those casualties increasing ever since the Israelis scrapped that treaty back early Tuesday morning. More than 400 people have been killed, and according to Palestinian health officials in the Gaza Strip, which is ruled by Hamas, most of those have been civilians. And just in the past day, according to Gaza health authorities, some 45 people have been killed. Again, most of them civilians. Matt Bradley, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
All right, stay with us. We have lots more news coming up after this short break.
You're watching Global News.
Canadians want to be informed.
That's why more Canadians than ever are turning to Global News, and accessing our local and national newscasts has never been easier.
It's the stories people are talking about from inside our communities.
Across the country and around the world. Trusted journalism.
Trusted journalism.
Trusted journalism.
When and where you want it.
Stream Canada's most extensive news coverage.
Watch and follow Global News.
If you choose cheesy jalapeno pepper sauce, perfectly pickled jalapeno peppers on a bacon beefy burger, how many chews would you choose to choose with this cheesy choice? The new cheesy jalapeno and bacon quarter pounder with 100% Canadian beef. It's a bit of a mouthful. Some say Canadians are apologetic. Sure, we're sorry for being so nice. Sorry we have so much talent that it overflows our borders. I'm not going anywhere. Sorry for making gripping drama and great music. I love the music coming out of Canada. Sorry for having the passion to build and rebuild. Sorry for being dreamers and connoisseurs. Wow! Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
We're done saying we're sorry.
Stream the best of Canadian content on Stack TV. Proudly Canadian, unapologetically entertaining.
The price is always fun. Always good.
You gotta fly, that's what I say.
And now, always on.
How about that?
The Price is Right channel. Watch now.
Pluto TV is bringing you the best crime fighters in the Big Apple. Care to elaborate? Follow every lead and collar every bird on one channel.
It's genius.
Watch the CSI New York channel now on Pluto TV.
I'm Ann Gaviola with your top business headlines right now. Canada is now in a trade war with China as that country's retaliatory tariffs are now in effect in response to Canada's tariff on electric vehicles. China is the world's second largest economy, and it's hitting Canada with a 100% levy on canola oil and meal and a 25% duty on seafood and pork. Canola farmers are asking Ottawa to either cover their losses from the tariffs or settle the trade dispute. The federal government has said China's tariffs are unjustified, but it has not announced any concrete plans to help canola farmers. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says small business confidence dropped to an all-time low in March as the trade war with the U.S. ramped up. The Federation says its business barometer plummeted a whopping 24.8 index points to 25. Simon Gaudreau, CFIB's chief economist and vice president of research, businesses are worried the worst is yet to come. Ottawa has announced more than $20 million in support for 67 projects to boost resilience in BC's forestry sector. Energy Minister Jonathan Wilkinson says in a statement that it's more important than ever to support the industry, which is already subject to American duties on softwood lumber and now faces the additional threat of tariffs from U.S. President Donald Trump. Across wine country in France, Italy, and Spain, one number is top of mind, 200%. That's because last week, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened a tariff of that amount on European wine, champagne, and other spirits if the European Union went ahead with retaliatory tariffs on some U.S. products. The top wine producers in Europe could face crippling costs that would hit smaller wineries especially hard. Those are the top business stories right now. For more, you can head to globalnews.ca. I'm Ann Gaviola.
Finland has once again been ranked the happiest country in the world. The World Happiness Report, which was released today, measures social support, income, health, freedom, generosity, and the absence of corruption to determine a country's national happiness. People in 143 countries and territories are asked to evaluate their life on a scale from 0 to 10, with 10 representing their best possible life. Results in the past 3 years are averaged to create a ranking. Finland remains in the top spot for an 8th year with an average score of 7.75, followed by Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden. Canada ranked 18th. Afghanistan held the bottom spot with a score of 1.36.
I'm Morgan Hoffman from Global Entertainment, and here are the top entertainment stories. Honora star Mikey Madison is set to make her SNL host debut next week, right here on Global. Now, this is fresh off her Oscar win earlier this month, with Morgan Wallen set as the musical guest. And Jack Black will host SNL the following week, which will be his first time since 2005. Nashville came out last night to honor the one and only Dolly Parton. Take a look. The song I Will Always Love You was performed by Reba McEntire, Carrie Underwood, Lady A, and around 50 members of the Opry's choir during the Opry 100 special. Now, this comes just 2 weeks after Dolly recently lost her husband Carl, nearly 60 years. I chatted with Grey's Anatomy star Ellen Pompeo on the morning show about her new film, Good American Family, based on a true story. She plays a controversial character, and here's what she had to say about it. I'm really talking candidly. I'm nervous. I don't want my 2 younger children to see me in this role right now. Now, this is Ellen's first role since Grey's Anatomy, and the series is available to stream now on Disney+. For this and more of your entertainment headlines, watch The Morning Show for just the morning of entertainment.
You are watching Global News. Coming up next, we have your top stories of the day. Stay with us.
It's the place to be in the morning. TMS is the #1 Canadian news and lifestyle morning show. Watch The Morning Show with Carolyn McKenzie and Jeff MacArthur, weekdays on Global. This is Global News.
Hello, and thank you for watching Global News on this Thursday, March 20th on Global.
And I'm Red Hansel. For the top stories we're tracking today.
Canadians heading to the polls. Prime Minister Mark Carney planning to call a federal election by this Sunday. The new Liberal leader is making the move now.
Investigators releasing a preliminary report on last month's Delta plane crash in Toronto. The investigation being led by the Transportation Safety Board of Canada and assisted by U.S. aviation officials.
Measles cases climbing in Canada as health officials push for vaccination. More on the numbers and the steps being taken by public health units.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is planning to call a federal election by Sunday, according to multiple sources within the Liberal Party. Global's chief political correspondent David Aiken joins us now from Ottawa. So, David, what more can you tell us about the expected election call?
Yeah, we've been reporting for ever since Carney won the leadership that he would call this election by Sunday. And the reason for that is if he waits any time past Sunday, Parliament has to return on Monday because Parliament's prorogue of the rules are the House is coming back Monday unless we have an election. So ever since Carney was elected, no one expected him to face the House. So an election will be called by Sunday. Outside chance it could be called on Saturday. It won't be called tomorrow because the Prime Minister's meeting with the Premiers has a First Minister's meeting. The big question is, when will actual voting day be? How long will the election day be? Well, the minimum election day period means that the earliest we could have an election that's called Sunday would be Monday, April the 28th. All of our elections are always held on Falls, and was told that Prime Minister Carney has not yet set on a date, that he could be looking at May the 5th. And Miranda, I'll let you know this. About a week or so ago, Mark Carney put up an Instagram post. He posed with the band, a couple of guys from the band Blue Rodeo, and Carney noted that his favorite Blue Rodeo song was 5 Days in May. And he said he was looking at 5 days in May. So let's factor that in. In any event, it looks like April 28th or possibly May the 5th. Canadians that will be into an election campaign. Campaign signs will be up at the end of the weekend. Many MPs are opening their campaign offices on Saturday, getting ready to go, and we're getting ready to go ourselves.
All right, and David, we know we've been covering on the multiple polls that are showing the Liberals are gaining ground on Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives. So is this the best time for the Liberals to call a federal election?
I don't see how it can get better because 3 months ago we were looking at according to polls at a conservative majority, a pretty easy win for Pierre Poilievre against him, but no longer an easy win. The Canadians that they're looking at the world landscape, particularly Donald Trump, and making some different decisions about the kind of prime minister they might like, and the Liberals have benefited strongly from that. Now, it won't be just Canada-U.S. relations will not be the only valid question. Affordability will also be a key question. And if we could just look to the recent Ontario election, that is really how Ford framed his successful campaign, Canada-U.S. relations and affordability. Remember, the first thing Mark Carney did to address affordability, he eliminated the consumer carbon tax. And that should be reducing gas prices on April the 1st, and you'll get a rebate still on the carbon tax rebate somewhere in the middle of this election campaign. Now, the Conservatives will argue, well, this guy is still all in on carbon taxes, but Carney can say, look what I did, first job addressing affordability. So right now, the Liberals are a little bit ahead. Our polling partner, Ipsos, has had 2 polls out now where they show the Liberals ahead. The big loser in this shift in opinion is the New Democrats. They are now in single digits. They risk party status. You got to win at least 12 seats in the House if you want to be official party status, because a lot of New Democrats have decided, no, we better stick with the Liberals. In Quebec, similar sort of trend. A lot of people who might vote for the Bloc Québécois looking at Carney and fulfilling Carney, and so Liberal numbers in Quebec are up. So all of that points right down to a very competitive race, and as we start, the Liberals might even have the edge.
All right, things are heating up. David, as always, thank you so much for the update.
Thanks, Brenda.
That is Global's chief political correspondent, David Aiken, joining us from the nation's capital.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre spent Thursday morning in Quebec, and he claims Prime Minister Mark Carney is not fully forthcoming with alleged conflicts of interest.
He admits now, I'm not accusing him of a conflict of interest, he admits that he has conflicts of interest in his holdings. He says that he's going to come up with a plan for that after the election. That is unacceptable. He should divulge all of his millions of dollars holdings right now.
The Conservative leader also claims that Carney previously advised former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to block energy projects. Poilievre says that if elected, he will push for more energy projects, resource extraction, and cut red tape to boost the economy.
New Chinese tariffs come into effect today and has Canadian canola farmers bracing for the impact, leaving many deeply worried about their future.
It's absolutely terrible. It's hard to deal with one set of tariffs, let alone 2. We've got 2 different markets that are basically our 2 biggest customers that now have tariffs against us. And that's basically what I don't think we can handle that.
China is enacting a 100% tariff on Canadian canola oil and canola meal, plus a 25% duty on seafood and pork exports. The move is in retaliation for Canada's tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles, steel, and aluminum products. Well, it may be a couple of days before an Ontario Superior Court judge decides whether to grant approval to the Hudson's Bay Company to liquidate its stores. The department store giant was in court Wednesday, where its lawyers asked for up to 2 more days to resolve contested issues. The judge in the case says that the company and its lenders, landlords, and other partners are in constructive conversations. Hudson's Bay had hoped to start liquidating all 80 of its stores this week, as well as 3 Saks Fifth Avenue stores and 13 Saks On Fifth locations here in Canada.
So as the trade war drags on, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says small business confidence dropped to an all-time low. The Federation says its business barometer, which gauges performance on a scale of 1 to 100, fell from 50 points to 25 in a single month. An index reading below 50 means the majority of businesses expect things will worsen over the next quarter. CFIB also says this is translating to lower hiring plans, with 19% of small firms planning for layoffs in the next few months. A preliminary report into the plane crash at Toronto's Pearson Airport last month has now been released.
During touchdown, several things occurred. The side stay attached to the aircraft's right main landing gear fractured, the landing gear retracted, and the wing root fractured between the landing gear and the fuselage, which is the central body portion of the aircraft.
Officials with the Transportation Safety Board go on to say that the right wing also broke off and leaked jet fuel, which ignited on impact. A high rate of descent alert was issued less than 3 seconds before touchdown. The flight data recorder did not contain any warning messages before the crash. Staff continue to investigate the February 17th crash landing that sent 21 people to hospital.
Passengers who spent hours on end in the Cancun airport facing delays on their flight home say they're struggling to get any money back from WestJet. Skylar Peters has more on why they think the airline is taking flight and avoiding compensation.
It was an extended vacation no one asked for. Hundreds of passengers planning to leave Cancun on Thursday, January 30th, spent most of the next 2 days in the airport, facing repeated delays from WestJet. More than 55 hours later, they landed in Calgary.
Time on the beach, etc. I mean, that's so distant. I repeated it. It just doesn't even enter my thought process. To me, this whole trip was simulated Cancun Airport.
Weeks later, Michael Binbin's compensation claim has been denied, the airline citing necessary maintenance for passenger safety.
Unfortunately, in this particular case, WestJet hasn't been forthcoming.
And 6 weeks later, passengers are left wondering what really happened.
It's the communication. It's the way it was.
Yeah, 100 times off this one. It was terrible. Very loud.
While WestJet may believe that these travelers weren't entitled to compensation, surely they should agree that these passengers are at least entitled to an explanation.
They also want an apology.
And all they have to do is say, listen, we've ordered the buses, we know you're going to go there, and you can go sit by the beach for a few hours and have a nice dinner. Right? Did that happen?
And some are willing to take it further.
Perhaps for the freedom of information and real, and I have to go to small place for me.
The entire experience leaving these WestJet loyalists considering a different airline for their next holiday.
You know, if they said, do you want to fly WestJet again? I'd say, no, but I have to. That's just kind of just the way it is.
We asked WestJet for context on this incident and the compensation process. At the time of the incident, the airline had apologized, saying the multiple cancellations were due to unscheduled maintenance. Skylar Peters, Global News.
All right, after this next break, we take a look at your cross-Canada forecast. That and more coming up.
You're watching Global News. If you choose cheesy jalapeno pepper sauce, perfectly pickled jalapeno peppers on a bacon beefy burger, how many chews would you choose to choose with this cheesy choice? The new cheesy jalapeno and bacon quarter pounder with 100% Canadian beef. It's a bit of a mouthful.
You can't even afford a fucking beer. How the fuck are you going to afford that?
We are going kayaking down to the Georgia.
How you gonna fucking pull that off? If you can't even afford a fucking beer, you can't even afford a car for gas for a car for a motherfucker drive by through that. You're like, ooh, yeah, exactly. You're not going no place to pull something. How you gonna pull that shit off? You can't afford a beer. Pull something. You can't even afford a beer. When I'm with you, yes,
that I'm trying to fulfill the people who get active in their hearts. I think that's just Here we go, man.